Hola, Pepitos. Sorry. Okay. Climate crisis. Two little words that are scary as hell when combined. If, like me, it makes you want to run away and bury your head in the sand, don't. Stick with me as we run through some of the ways the climate crisis increases poverty and just what we might be able to do about it. Over the last 50 years, the world has changed at an unprecedented rate. We've seen things like smartphones and the internet come into being, and the way we live, communicate, and travel has changed forever. Now we have all the content you could ever want and need, including me.
But look, I made you some content. Daddy made you your favorite open wide.
But with all that has come a huge burden on our natural planet, which needs to house, feed, and sustain so many living things. Not just humans, but animals and plants as well. We now know that the rise of fossil fuels and a lot of human activities like the use of plastic, factory farming, fashion, and air travel have had a catastrophic effect on the planet, making temperatures soar. Now, this is an issue because beyond a certain temperature, life on our planet becomes impossible. And it's the small island nations threatened by sea level rise, like Tuvalu, to the subtropical nations such as Chad, threatened by increased malaria and famine, that will face the biggest impacts of the climate crisis, despite generating much smaller amounts of greenhouse gases. In fact, only 1/10 of the world's greenhouse gases are emitted by the 74 lowest income countries. But it is these countries that will lack the ability to deal with some of the biggest impacts of climate change due to their reliance on natural resources for day to day survival. Water is the most important resource in the world. We drink it to survive, we use it to water our crops, for the food we eat, and if you're lucky, to even fill your pool. One day, Amira, one day.
Is it a pool yet?
Yes, Dad.
Because of its importance, it is also the resource that will have the biggest impact if affected by the climate crisis. Currently, roughly half of the world's population is experiencing severe water scarcity for at least part of the year. This will only increase as the climate crisis deepens. Some of the most important natural reservoirs for water storage are glaciers and snow. So, for example, the nations that surround the Himalayas rely on the annual snowmelts that flood the rivers for fresh water. Not only can you draw your water supply directly from the rivers the water flows down, it even restocks groundwater supplies. So that well you dug for your water will also be topped up as that delicious fresh mountain water flows down the river and soaks into the land. We have another video on why we all need water if you're interested. Go check that out. But the problem is, as the Earth's average temperature is increasing, glaciers are retreating and snowfall is reducing. By 2050, it's estimated that a third of all Himalayan glaciers will be gone, impacting the water supply of 1.9 billion people. And that's just in one corner of the globe. The good news is, as new technologies and more sustainable farming practices develop, we are able to do more with less water. The important thing is getting these practices to those who need them most. But even with better use of water, food supplies are still a threat from the climate crisis. The climate is a complicated thing. Global changes can have major local impacts, with extreme weather events increasing and traditional weather patterns altering. The impact on the amount of food we harvest could be dramatic. Under the most severe climate change scenario and without adaptation, simulated crop yield losses range from 7% to 23%. And the reasons for this are varied. As we've already discussed, water supplies will play a big part, with both flooding and drought posing huge risks to crops. But did you know that scientists now think that one of the main threats to crops comes from something called jet streams? Jet streams are strong winds high up in the atmosphere that drive the kind of weather many of us experience. These jet streams are generally reliable and fairly predictable, a bit like my husband. He wrote that joke. This is what helps give us accurate weather forecasts, supposedly.
Good afternoon to you. Earlier on today, apparently a woman rang the BBC and said she heard that there was a hurricane on the way. Well, if you're watching, don't worry, there isn't.
The next day.
13 die as hurricane-force winds sweep southern Britain.
However, something strange has been happening with jet streams in the past few years. Changes in jet streams are partly responsible for the massive heat waves around the world in recent years, with multiple countries breaking record temperatures. I'm in India right now, and it feels like we're breaking temperatures. Records. It is very hot. It is so hot. And the reasons for these fluctuations is climate change. As the ice at the poles melts, the mix of hot and cold air that drives these jet streams forward is weakening and altering them, causing more extreme weather and potential threats to crop growth globally. Crop failure could lead to rapid price rises and fuel migration as people go to areas where food is more available. But if we can encourage farmers to vary the kind of crops they grow and produce a variety of crops that are resistant to extreme changes in climate, then there is hope that food supplies can remain secure and disease resistant. As global temperatures rise, there is an increasing threat of diseases affecting more and more people and crops. Floods from extreme weather events can cause cholera or dysentery, and rising temperatures increase the spread of mosquitoes that spread malaria and other diseases. In 2020, areas that had previously had experienced little to no malaria started seeing cases rising, particularly in urban areas. Djibouti had about 73,000 cases of malaria in 2020, compared to just 27 cases before, and the catastrophic 2022 flooding in Pakistan led to a five-fold increase in malaria cases in the country. In the case of crops, trees, and other plants, the effect is similar. As temperatures rise, the ability for diseases to spread grows, as new areas become the ideal temperature for them. And perhaps even more scarily, they adapt and evolve to their new environments, potentially worsening the effects and increasing their resistance to preventative measures. Not something I want to think about, having just had my third bout of COVID. Fortunately, even with these rises, the effect to tackle malaria is succeeding. A new vaccine has seen a 13% drop in early childhood deaths from malaria compared to areas that did not receive the vaccine, and supplies are ramping up. But in the coming years, affordable access to healthcare will be critical in the fight to combat the increase in preventable diseases caused by climate change. As the past decade has demonstrated, growing numbers of people are forced to flee their homes, and it's likely to get worse. In worst case estimates, 216 million people could move internally by 2050 as water becomes scarcer and agricultural livelihoods are threatened. However, if governments aim to slow down the pace of climate change and adapt to its impact, the World Bank predicts this number could drop by as much as 80% to 44 million. And acting now and helping countries to strengthen their management of critical resources will help prevent the number of refugees increasing as the climate crisis deepens and those critical resources are impacted. 44 million is still a lot of people though, and slowly countries are waking up to this fact. Australia and New Zealand have developed policies to offer visas to Pacific Islanders affected by sea level change, and other nations are now implementing climate crisis impacts into their refugee status considerations. Climate change is here and now, and it's already affecting people all around the world. As the climate crisis worsens, it's only a matter of time before it affects all of us and throws more people into poverty. I would love to be able to put a positive spin on this at the end of this video and say it's all going to be fine, but the truth is the climate crisis is a global emergency, and that will have very real impact on life as we know it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please go subscribe to our channel. We do lots of videos on global development and personal fun stuff. And if you want more rambling thoughts, reading letters, and my thoughts on life, then sign up to my newsletter, the link to which is in the description below. Thanks. Bye.